Hey guys, it's summertime, and life is all about weekends, cookouts, and all things outdoors. And the JCPenney men's store is the place to go for some serious summer style, where shorts, tees, and swim trunks from brands like St. John's Bay, Dockers, and Izod go for a cool 40 to 50% off. And spend $25 or more with coupon on men's apparel, shoes, and accessories, and you get $10 off. We've got your look, your style, and a great price. The men's store at JCPenney. When it fits, you feel it. Coupon valid 5/28 to 5/31. Some exclusions apply. Check jcp.com now or your Thursday newspaper for coupon and details.
Giancarlo Stanton and the Miami Marlins travel to New York to face the Mets.
Rip right field towards the corner. Gone!
The pregame's at 3:30 Eastern, followed by first pitch at 4:30. Saturday on ESPN Radio. SVP and Russillo, the podcast.
Hey, it's SVP and Russillo. Appreciate you checking out the podcast. You're going to want to hear an interview with Chris Long that is an absolute sabotage job for me. My headphones were all jacked up. I was talking at inappropriate times. Just an absolute fiasco. But there are a fun list of topics we cover, including the end game of Rockets-Warriors. Ryan and I had zero problem with the fact that Houston didn't call a timeout. We talk about your selective outrage when it comes to cheating in sports. My one big thing is on the idea of relegation and why it would never work here in the States. The end of the line for Kobe? Maybe, maybe not. And we talk about the differences between DeMar Carroll and Kyrie Irving and why they should and shouldn't play tonight. That, I got something to say. Let me ask you a question. All part of the podcast, and it starts now.
SVP and Russillo.
Good to have you along for the ride on this Memorial Day weekend. It always sneaks up on you when you have a job and you're not just in the car right now on the way down to the beach. It's just, oh, wait, this is Memorial Day. Oh, cool. You guys have fun.
We're going to have Chris Long on later. He said he's depressed because he's old now and normally has his Memorial Day weekend plans. And it's always funny when you talk to a guy that has just a great group of buddies, you go, maybe my buddies aren't that great.
No, we were great.
We were. That's the thing I forgot.
Were.
Yeah, were.
We were.
I don't know the last time I've been like, okay, Memorial Day weekend. I can't even remember when it was that I'm packing it up. I remember when I lived in Boston, I'd drive down to Martha's Vineyard, and I think I would hate myself the entire drive going.
Why?
Because that Route 3 traffic.
Oh, right.
To go to the Cape, 2 bridges, and then my reward's another boat ride. So I don't want to make it sound like it's not horrible to go there. It's great, but I don't have anything planned. I think I'm doing NBA Tonight tomorrow. So. There you go.
Yeah, the old days of 20 to a half-share house on the way down to crash on a floor in a kitchen, man. Those days, as we've covered, I require a soft bed and many pillows.
And a door.
Yeah, it's well put. A door is a huge deal. But to all of you who are heading down somewhere to enjoy the Memorial Day weekend, be safe. Go say hi to my boy Monty at the Starboard down at Dewey Beach. He'll look after you. Are we the only people that understand the end of the game last night?
I don't know. What happened? What happened last night? I went to bed. A great game, again. Just so much fun to watch these guys play, the way Harden goes off. But I went to bed going, all right, I got it. And watched a little of the post game. And then I woke up, Scott, and people are what? They're mad about
no timeout.
No timeout. They're mad about Harden passing to Dwight. I've heard people mad at Dwight for not taking the open shot. I don't know. Like, what happened overnight?
I don't know. Is it the outrage cycle? Are we cutting up the blame pie because we can't? My belief is this: you get a dangerous threat from outside and a threat to take it to the rim. One of the most valuable players in the league in Harden, with his ball with a ball in his hands in transition, broken floor, everyone theoretically could get scattered. Or you can call timeout with 4 seconds, 5 seconds, and try to get the spacing in your advantage. Theoretically, you should have the advantage if you're Houston. And Golden State played great defense in transition, preventing Harden from getting a shot off. I think he's in his peripheral vision. He sees a trailer. He throws it and immediately knows, oh, bleep, that's not the guy I want to give it to because Howard's not the one that ought to have the ball in his hands. I don't want to steal your argument / beef with the screen grab police, but...
Well, the idea that Terrence Jones just has this open, free run to the rim because you screen grab it at the perfect time where Harden has the ball and apparently a guy's open, it just doesn't work. Again, I'll say it. If you could screen grab a guy jumping off of a bridge, some of you would argue that he's actually flying, okay? He's not open. I'm watching the play again right now. he doesn't have control of the basketball. There's a closeout by a defender. There's another guy that's trailing him. This is what it was. It was the right call to not call the timeout. It's
Totally
in the right
agree.
guy's hands.
Totally
Who knows?
agree.
I actually figured he was going to be able to. He was starting to get some more calls at the end of that game, just kind of making that move, and he does get fouled a lot. But it was a really smart double by two smart players in Clay and Curry. He sees trailer. I don't know if Dwight's yelling trailer. You hope he's not. But then he's trying to get it right back. And the worst part about this is that no shot goes up. But sometimes bad things happen, but not based on
to good people.
right. But like there are bad outcomes that are only just bad outcomes, not the result of flawed planning. You see what I'm saying?
That's really well said. And because, again, are you likely to have the spacing in your advantage if you call timeout and you're Houston? No. Golden State gets to set it up the way they want it. It was great defense by Golden State. And the flaw here, and it's a fatal one, is that the ball doesn't even get up. And that's a gigantic problem.
And that's why Harden's not going to apron down in the back. And I don't blame him.
No.
This guy was awesome last night.
He couldn't have been better. And then the ball and the game die essentially in his hands, or actually scrambling for them on the floor. What happened, James, at the end of the game?
Got the ball off the glass, and I'm thinking just to try to get an easy one, and they did a good job of having two guys, on me, and so I couldn't attack. And when I looked up, I saw a red jersey, and it was Dwight, so I tried to throw it back to him. I mean, at that time, I'm thinking it's 5 seconds on the clock, so I tried to get the ball back, and it was still two guys right there. I watched the film. It's just a tough play.
That's his take. What's the head coach's take? Here's Kevin McHale.
Yeah, I could drop a lot of plays, and it wasn't going to be one guy laying on his back and one guy out of bounds, so I just let him go. Yeah, look, we'll take our best player coming downhill. He's a great downhill player. And that thing, they just kind of pinched him, had a little bit of a bobble. I was trying to then the ball got loose, and I was trying to get timeout late at that time. We should have, if we had timeout, could have probably called it with about 2.5. But look, when I glanced up and I saw two guys behind the play, there's just no way I was going to call a timeout at that point.
And this is what we do in our business is Monday Morning Quarterback, and we spend today saying what could have, should have, would have. And you heard their explanations. Their explanations not only are plausible, but I believe that they're absolutely the right way to go. McHale's saying with two you're trying to get a timeout, but at that point you don't possess the ball.
No, and it was a weird end, and Breen was so good with this chaos.
I agree.
And you're going, he nailed it, when even though you're watching, you go, wait a minute, does he not have the – okay, it's over. It's over. So.
I thought, no issue. And now if you're Houston, you competed and coulda, shoulda, but now you have to win 4 of the next 5 games against this team. And I don't know how that happens. I learned my lesson, though. I'm not writing your obit. But,
But this is different, right? You went up against a better team in Golden State. You showed tremendous heart getting down last night big and coming back. And, you start thinking about Golden State and you go, the biggest flaw with Golden State is that they can get too loose in their play. They're so, you don't want to start getting cheesy here, but they're like watching a band. There's so much to them. The way they play basketball, the flow and the rhythm and all.
String cheese incident?
Yeah, kind of like that.
Widespread?
Early widespread.
So what you're saying is
print the shirts. Well, we said it.
Yeah.
So I don't need to keep saying it again.
Quick thought on Curry. You said something before the show that I think is worth saying on air. And I think we've reached the place where it's just all taken for granted with him. He's gone for 34 and 33 in 2 games. And he's hit 6 and 5 threes in 2 games. You used the word deliver before the show.
I don't know that anybody delivers like he does. Consistently delivers. I don't know that I've ever watched a player play this game where I expect the shot to go in as much as I do with him. And I'm talking all of them. I know that sounds ridiculous. Bird,
no, it really
Magic,
doesn't.
LeBron, Jordan. I've never watched a player where out of his hands I expect it to go in as much as it does with Steph. And he hits 2 huge shots under 3 minutes last night that don't get classified as the clutch ones, right? Because they're not the end game ones. They're 2 enormous shots. There was another one that he actually did miss that could have made it a 9-point game at 99-96. But I don't know what to say about him other than they get a little loose with the basketball because he tries some stuff, and he'll try it in Game 2 of the Western Conference Finals I mean, the reason why Houston's able to get back into this thing is you look at the fact that Golden State's turning the ball over as much as they were. And Kerr's reminding them, and he reminded them at halftime, and he reminded again in postgame, where he's like, this is not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy getting to the NBA Finals. But up 2-0, 95% of these teams move on.
SVP and Russillo.
People's outrage with the New England story is it's complex. There are a lot of layers to it. But at the core of it is the notion of cheating, right? That New England did something that was cheating. It was illegal.
Yeah, right. It's easy because when you put it in that box, it's hard to counter that.
Yep.
You can't say, well, no, they didn't.
Cheating, bad cheating, gamesmanship. However you want to frame it, that's the crux of this. Well, last night in Atlanta, Will Smith, not that one. Will Smith, who pitches for the Brewers, was ejected from the game.
Would you change your name? Just side note.
Maybe go Billy.
Billy Smith?
Billy Smith. William.
Yeah, because what if you're trying to get a table and
there's a golfer,
the focus wasn't that great.
There's a golfer, J.B. Holmes. His name's John Holmes. So went ahead and went J.B. Okay.
Just going to let that one sit there.
I mean, I think we all understand what we're getting at.
So that's a no. If you were Will Smith, white pitcher for Brewers, you'd stay Will Smith.
Like I just said, I'd go Billy. Then you could be Billy the Kid.
If you're good.
Right, or if you're a
what if you're like
guy.
a 4-5, 11-12 record?
I'll just go Will. That way people talk about me.
There you go. Okay, problem solved.
Here's what he did last night. He had a big old blob of sunscreen and rosin on his arm. And it was evident. It wasn't subtle. It was evident. And Freddie Gonzalez comes out, talks to the umpires. It's Jim Joyce, right, that walks out there, taps his fingers on his forearm, and just gives, get out of here. And with that, Smith goes bonkers, screaming at the Braves. He's screaming at their dugout. You could see cutaways of other pitchers from Milwaukee saying directly to Freddie, hey, Freddie, that's BS. And what's amazing about this is that what Smith did, the definition of what he did, is cheating. Okay? And yet, to read Buster Olney, everyone in baseball understands that this is how it's done. If I say bullfrog, and I remember it from 100 years ago, my buddies that used to lifeguard up at Avalon, it was the friend of every lifeguard up there. You'd put some bullfrog on your nose to make sure it didn't burn off. It's sunscreen. But it's not like the traditional, like, old-school sunscreen that we remember. It's clear. And everybody in baseball puts it either – Buchholz, I think, puts it in his hair.
Yeah, Buchholz will be pitching in a 40-degree game, and his hair looks like he's in a shower constantly.
Again, it's not subtle there either, but everybody seems to get it. You take the bullfrog, you mix it up with some rosin, and that allows you to get better grip on the ball. And to read Olney, it's just in baseball, he shrugged because everyone kind of gets it. Because even though, again, it is cheating, not legal – everyone just knows it, and they say, okay. But that was the reason that Will and the whole Brewer team reacts to the fact that they got caught, is that it's an understood, which I find interesting.
I don't mind people taking care of their own business at times. Like, I'm not sitting up at night watching baseball games going, we need more justice. We need it to be swift. You know, when Pineda did it, it was kind of a joke, and then Girardi has to go out there and pretend he doesn't know what's going on, and everybody's kind of lying. But we always use this term when you talk about sports, do business as business is done. And in baseball, this is how business is done. You can't make it obvious. And now you know it's going to go back. Like, they will harbor this for a long time, and they're going to go back at Freddie and this Braves team. So, I think that's what you kind of start up, where everybody's going, if you're going to do it, don't make it so obvious. But that's why initially with the Patriots thing, I never had that big of an issue of what the act actually was. Because I do believe, despite not having a ton of public evidence, I believe that guys mess with footballs. It seems the way the Patriots did it maybe was above and beyond by being that cryptic or like this espionage of grabbing the footballs and going in another room. So the funniest thing about it all is that I think every baseball player starts, if there's a level 1 to 10 of level of mad, do all these guys start at a level 9 before the game? Like, just let's run out there. We're at a 9, and we're so – I think they're psyched to get super mad at each other.
I think they're Spinal Tap, and it goes to 11. You're right about that, and I've always laughed. How many times have we talked about on the show that this rage, somehow when anytime there's a dust-up, the bullpens manage that rage and run side by side into the infield. If you were that mad, you could just meet right out there in the outfield and fight. But there's this desire to be furious instantly furious,
and because there's almost no repercussions. And I don't know. You don't want to say something as silly as, well, college football players, college basketball players, are they more mature? Well, that doesn't make any sense, because basketball guys, the really great ones, go to college for a year. Because sometimes I would think, well, is it because baseball you have so many guys going from high school to the minors, and that, do they not get enough vacation time? I mean, these are all stupid
theories.
I'm willing to admit it. But baseball, and it's so much worse than just 5 years ago, Scott. We're talking about it all the time. You could do a rational baseball guy fight, argument, outburst. You could do that segment every day of the week.
And the Braves, famously, they were the guardians of the game, right? They were the
McCann, right?
They were now obviously not there, but there were a couple of years ago. They were the keeper.
Cross called McCann on Twitter the inventor of baseball,
the keeper of the flame. So the outrage from Milwaukee,
John Buccigross
television's John Buccigross, get it right, seemed to view this as, we all understand how, as you say, do business as business is done. This is just how it's done, even though it's illegal. So Pineda's out there with pines on his neck. And this guy Smith has got a glob on his arm, and his explanation after the game was this:
I had sunscreen rosin on my arm. I just forgot to wipe it off before I went out and pitched. I had to kind of get ready in a hurry. I just forgot. That's it.
Were you stunned when they pointed it out?
Yeah, kind of, but it is what it is.
So I forgot to not cheat, or I wasn't trying to cheat. I just forgot that come on, look.
Well, these guys have Pineda forgot every word in the English language.
Like Sammy?
Right.
Hey, I was in Pepsi commercials, but now suddenly here suddenly on Capitol Hill, it's really confusing to me, man.
So what our man Will Smith, not the rapper, is saying here is that at some point the mixture of rosin and sunscreen is beneficial how? Like, hey, yeah, we were down at the beach.
No, dude, it was chilly and windy. Now, you're good buddies with a guy that's a pitcher, and we talked about him at Bushman.
Yeah.
How as he's a pitcher, does he try to justify that it's okay to do this?
I've never talked to him about this.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Interesting. I'd be curious what from an insider. I'd love to know how's it seem? Like, what do you do? Because everyone seems to know that it's okay, and it is cheating. Right, we're cheating, and they were mad. Not that they were just mad that you dare to call them out for cheating because
he wasn't mad at the ump at all.
No, he's mad at them. How dare you point this out? How dare you?
But does he have a point?
No.
Wait a minute. Will Smith, the pitcher, doesn't have a point.
We understand that we're going to do what we have to do. But if you're that blatant about it.
All right.
Does he have a point about the philosophy?
Yeah.
Sure. Because,
but you're right about that's different. It's the same
let's
thing with Pineda, and that's why you go, come on, man.
Right. However business is handled. If we're doing things that are covert, that are covert, then make them covert, not overt. Hey, everybody, I got some stuff on the old arm, just forgot to get it. But again, it's cheating. Cheaters!
SVP and Russillo.
No, for real.
Geico presents Strange Savings Stories. Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Okay.
We'll start this, and I need to get my headphone act together because right now I am not capable of conducting an interview.
You just broke them, right?
No, well, yes, but I can fix it.
Okay. Changing it up here a little bit, a little audible. Chris Long knows what I'm talking about. How are you?
Yeah, I love audible. I'm good. How are y'all?
Doing all right. Little rough around the edges here. So let's talk about Memorial Day.
I'm rough around the edges too. Can we get something out there? I invited Ryen to Bonnaroo this year.
Yeah.
And he kind of blew me off a little bit, like a little flakage. Steve?
We lose him?
No, we didn't
Stanford
lose
Steve,
him.
can you attest? Is Stanford Steve there today?
No, Stanford Steve is off. What Bonnaroo is what? The middle of next month?
Yeah, it's somewhere in there. And
All
I think if you want to get off to a good start with this whole custody battle, you should show up.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, because as Van Pelt and I break up here, there will be a custody battle, and we've been asking you who you want to live with, and it's up to you, so you can tell the judge.
You told him that he was going to live with you.
Right. Do you know how
major red flag if you don't want to come party and watch awesome music and live on a bus?
Well, June 15th for adults is a little tougher to cover the NBA Finals, and then the draft 10 days later.
I forgot about that. Valid point. We'll consider that.
I screwed this whole thing up because I broke my headphones. I'm sorry, pal.
This is one of the worst interviews we've done in a while.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there. I screwed up because I should have not talked while I was trying to get my headphones together.
You were asking me while I was doing an interview on the radio, what was he saying?
I couldn't hear him.
Yeah, because your headphones were broken. And then you were while I was listening to him, and I go back and forth because I just figured you were going to sit that out as you try to fix your headphone situation. You're like, what's he saying? What's he going on? Is he there?
Just do a take two on everything.
Yeah, let's just start it all over again.
So what I missed? Did I miss something good?
No, I don't think so. We were just talking about how Ryen completely blew me off for the NBA Finals when I invited him to go to Bonnaroo.
Wow. So that puts me kind of in the lead for who gets the custody battle when we break up, which the wheels. Yeah. The wheels were set in motion when you asked us that question, and it went kind of crickets on the air.
Yeah, it was awkward, but here's the deal. I mean, when it comes to the power rankings of custody, you're definitely vying for the number one spot, Scott. So don't panic. Ryan's already blowing the game.
Wow, dude.
I'm a closer. I'm not worried.
Ryan and I were joking earlier about your angst over Memorial Day and sort of realizing that you're an adult now. Is that an accurate way of portraying it?
Yeah. It's interesting. When you turn 30, a couple years back, this time of year, I was at a pool party at Vegas, along with, a giant mass of humanity that descends upon Vegas. And you know how that whole thing goes. And now I'm at a park playing with my godson at one of Charlottesville City's numerous wonderful parks. It's a lot. I'm way more hydrated. It's cost effective. I think it's rewarding. I think I'll feel better about it on Monday. But the transition, it's pretty sobering.
Yes, that's a great word. Great word. I would have gone to the Memorial Day thing a couple years ago. No invite there, but we weren't buddies yet, so that's fine. I noticed a vine you sent out of you pretending to die while having your blood drawn. How did that work out?
Well, I wasn't pretending to die. That would be, I think, a little much. I was pretending to faint. Some people faint when they – so we have team physicals. They take like 2 hours. And, just to break up the monotony, I pretended I fainted. And the nurse played it pretty cool, so she was a real trooper about it. And she asked me afterwards, she's like, can you send me that? Because, I don't know if my husband's ever going to believe it. And I said, well, he can just look on Instagram where about 35,000 people are already seeing it. So got that going for you.
But did you feel bad that you pretended? Like, she said, you know what? The thing is I felt like you were more excited about the fact that she fell for it as if there perhaps could be another Long in the action movie business post-playing career.
Well, listen, I've been fielding offers for Firestorm too, and right now I just got too much on my plate. But I thought, if I'm going to faint, I want to show the world I'm like a method actor, you know what I mean? So I really had to get into it, and it was a good exercise for me. And she told me she was convinced, and I'm just keeping her on her toes, man. Without people like me, how does the medical system run?
I'm just wondering how many questions really have been left unanswered since the first Firestorm, and if there are enough questions for two. Do you even have a guess?
Where is Jesse? Is he alive?
There's one. Do you even want to
hold up in a bar somewhere?
Rotten Tomatoes. What do you think it is?
Is he having substance abuse issues? I mean, that was a traumatic experience for the character.
You know what? I'm in.
Firestorm 2, look for it, summer of 16. Chris Long is our guest, and you can joke about being hydrated, cost-effective, rewarding, things like that, but you actually, I think that you are turning different pages here as you become a senior citizen here. I'm reading about this foundation that you started. Yeah. Tell me about it.
Oh, well, we had a great night in St. Louis this week to open up my foundation, and we've got a really exciting initiative for clean water in Tanzania. You know, Tanzania was a place I visited a couple of years back and kind of stayed on my heart, and I wanted to give back to that region because it was such a wonderful trip for me. I spent about 2 weeks there. I climbed Kilimanjaro, and I've just had this idea brewing for a while, and we're getting guys involved from all over the league to kind of represent their teams and their markets to raise money for building wells in Tanzania. So, you know, I've had a lot of great community work that I've been lucky enough to be a part of, and finally I'm launching my foundation, and it takes time to get all your ducks in a row, and things just kind of came together all at the right time, and I think people should keep an eye on the Water Boys movement. That's what it's called, the Water Boys Initiative, and you can visit our site, waterboys.org, and I think it's going to be really great, and people will know a lot more about it come July and August when things are ramping up, and we got a lot of good people behind it. There's good people in the league, and I'm excited. We raised a ton of money, and it blew me away. I had to speak in public, which I was just terrified of. You feel like you're in slow motion. You're like, God, everybody in the room hates me right now. But last night somebody taped it. I looked back on it, and it actually went pretty well. So all in all, it was a good event for a good cause.
Do you know Barry Pepper, who played Packer in the first Firestorm?
No, but I know Scott Glenn, who was like the bad guy.
Wint?
Yeah.
Well, I'm just figuring.
I haven't watched the movie in a while, but you know my dad still gets royalties from that movie? It's pretty awesome.
You're awesome, dude. And when next time you speak in public, just remember this. Nobody hates you.
Yeah. Where's that coming from?
I understand what that's about.
You know, no, it's a public speaking thing, man. You know, you get up there, you feel like I'm like, dude, I've been up here for like 6 minutes. People just want to eat. Well, it's tough, man, but
tell a story about yourself.
I took a couple shots of Jack and rolled with it.
There you go. There you go. Listen, I apologize for my role in the horrific start to this, but I hope you have a good Memorial Day. We salute you on the work that you're doing, and we'll talk off air about what me and Russillo can do to try to help you do whatever you're doing over there, all right?
Yeah, we'll talk more about it as it shapes up. It's real exciting, and thanks for asking about it. Y'all have a great weekend doing domesticated things 30-plus-year-olds do.
We'll do that.
All right.
We'll do that. Right. That's Chris Long, ladies and gentlemen.
SVP and Russillo.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Sunderland, Newcastle, and Hull sounds a bit like it could be a law firm, but for those who are unaware and or don't keep tabs on the English Premier League, those were the three teams that were facing relegation this weekend as the EPL season comes to a close. Sunderland saved themselves with a draw earlier in the week, meaning only one of the other two will remain. The specifics of how aren't really of consequence to the discussion, because if you follow the sport, then you know and understand. They know and understand. If you don't, then there's 0 point to going through soccer's equivalent of the wild card possibilities. But it's really so much better than that, isn't it? It is not a matter of who makes a postseason. It's who earns the right to remain the next season. If you aren't good enough, if you don't perform to a high enough standard, you are dropped a level. Think about how great that would be if it happened in the States. Hey, Philly, you want a tank? Cool, enjoy the D-League. I'm curious who you think would be relegated in sports from the major sports. Oakland Raiders, you got a proud past, but your recent shortcomings, those would not be trumped by your history. Who else? My Washington Redskins? Last place 5 of the last 6 years, relegated. That hurts. It's a little too close to home, and therein lies the problem. We're too soft for that here in the States. We don't want to stare down what it would mean to face failure. We've created this culture where everybody gets ribbons for turning up. Kids grow up playing games where the parents are so afraid to keep score, as if their kids aren't capable of counting how many goals Zach gives up to the blue team. What this contributes to in a profound and horrible way, in my opinion, is a generation that's not prepared to deal with the fact that life keeps score. Accomplishment gets rewarded, not the desire to be. Not the expectation that what you want is what you get. If that were the case, how would we ever differentiate between anyone and anything? And that's why I love relegation. Not good enough. Get out. Had a tough year. A lot of injuries. Shame. Get out. Most enterprise in life ought to be a meritocracy. The best are recognized and compensated as such. The worst fail, and the majority in the middle are grinding their butts off trying to hang on with the hope that they might eventually be comfortable someday. And sports are the ultimate meritocracy. There's a scoreboard right there to tell Sunderland, Newcastle, and Hull where they stand. And for one of them at the end of this week, where they stand will be in line to get on a bus, which will be taking them somewhere else, which is what they will have earned with their play. This is a concept that we've touched on occasionally over the years every time this idea of relegation comes up. And I think it would be awesome in American sports. I just think for a zillion different reasons, some of which are complicated and others are more obvious, Ryan, I don't know how it would play here.
I'd love to know the language of what it means to ownership. Now, if it's already set up that way, then as an owner of one of these clubs, you know that that's part of the deal. Where in the NFL, you're already part of this multi-billion-dollar business.
It's pretty complicated.
Right. So then to say, hey, Redskins, sorry about your run, but enjoy this other league you're playing indoors, and you're no longer getting any of this money that we negotiated collectively.
And that's a giant problem. Is there's no lower level league to absorb that. This is where just Steve, you're the big soccer head of the group here. Do you know? I mean, I'm not putting you in a spot here. If you don't know, you don't know. But how would that work from the financials? Like, hey, if you're in this level, you get this much money. If you drop down to the next league, that's what you get. Everyone just kind of understands it.
Yeah, they get slashed. And a club, Blackpool, who were in the Premier League maybe 4 or 5 years ago.
I've been there. Horrendous place. Horrendous place.
Last year at one time, they had 10 players signed due to their financial situation. And this year, they had to cut 6 more guys just because they got relegated again to a lower team. I actually think this would work terrifically in college football, where you have the Power 6 and the team that finishes last in each conference. Then you get the next 6 conferences, and you get that team that finishes first to get promoted to the next level. So that way they're in one of those Power 6 conferences. I think it would work great in college football.
I love the idea of it. It's just some of it's just that people would lose their minds here because it's never been done. And it's a cool idea. That's why I made the Redskins part of this point, is that, look, everyone knows that's who I grew up rooting for. And if they got dropped down to whatever the level is beyond that, you'd think, wow, this isn't nearly as fun an idea as it was before, I was trumpeting it. Your college football thing is an interesting play. It's complicated.
Right, because Northwestern's not going to give up on $20+ million a year from just the Big Ten network.
Hey, man, got to beat Indiana.
Like Toledo passed us up.
Maction, dude.
What would you do with the SEC West? All those teams are awesome.
Dude, don't you watch the bowls? Bowl games, brother.
SVP and Russillo.
Mayo's the best condiment.
ESPN Radio, bringing you directly to the biggest events in sports.
Center field, will hit, Hunter back, out of here!
From opening day of baseball,
Throw to the plate, safe at the plate!
Right through the World Series.
For the 3rd time in 5 seasons, the San Francisco Giants are the champions of the baseball world.
Whether it's LeBron, Chris Paul, or Kevin Durant, when the NBA tips off, ESPN Radio is right there when a champion is crowned.
Have a new world champion. The San Antonio Spurs are the world champions.
And when the magic of bowl season arrives, ESPN Radio is your home for the new college football playoff.
The college football playoff first national champion, the Ohio State Buckeyes.
The biggest events in sports can be found right here on ESPN Radio.
Here's the headline. Sirius XM NBA Radio. Kobe Bryant indicates to Los Angeles Lakers GM Mitch Kupchak, this is it. He's in the last year of a deal. No discussions of anything going forward. This is what Kupchak told Sirius XM NBA Radio. Bryant will be 37 at the end of next year. So this is the idea of an end date is when it's announced, Letterman says, hey, no more shows. And you go, wow, so May's going to come and that'll be the end of it. And then you gear up to the end of an incredible run and you take inventory of all that it's meant. But is it entirely surprising that at 68 years old, Letterman decides he doesn't want to do it anymore? No. You just get used to a new normal. And in the case of a 37-year-old who's missed a bunch of time in these last 3 or 4 years because of a litany of injuries, the idea that next year is the end, to me, is met largely with a shrug and a nod, like, yeah, that makes sense. But do you have a different feeling?
I only have theories. I don't have anything that's distinct where I go, okay, he's absolutely gone. This is big news. I mean, if Kobe Bryant, this is his final season. If he can make it through it, then maybe that changes everything. But it's been extremely disappointing if you look at what he's had to go through the last couple of years. 78 games 3 years ago, only 6 games 2 years ago, and this last season, all the talk, I want it more. You know, that's the thing with Kobe that I always kind of laugh about a little bit. People say, oh, no one's hungrier than this guy. This guy wants 6 more than anybody. Well, it doesn't mean you get to have it. And he wasn't with a great team anymore. He couldn't stay healthy, and he played only 30-plus games this last season. So if you look at the way the contract works and the extension, this final year is $25 million. He'd be the highest-paid player in the league. And by the way, just some numbers. Like what this guy's made the last few years, $25 million, 25-plus, 28, $30.5 million, $23.5 million last year, $25 million. So when you look at the total numbers of this, he's going to be about $330 million for his career earnings in the NBA.
It's a lot of
right.
It's a lot of loot,
and good for him. But here's the theory I'll throw at you. There's a couple different things. What if he plays the whole year at 37?
Okay.
And what if the Lakers go, you know what, we like you, we like what we saw from you. We are rebuilding this thing. We don't get to just be good because we're the Lakers, and maybe they do have advantages. But it's Towns or Okafor or somebody else, the number 2 pick that works out. Randall comes back and is healthy. Clarkson. Like, do you want to stick around and play? Do you want to sign a 2-year, $20 million deal, considering everybody has more cap space than anybody's had before, and we got to spend it on somebody? Do you want to stick around? So when I hear this, all right, yeah, this could be big news. But I also can envision a scenario where if he actually stays healthy, then maybe he says, hey, I still like playing basketball.
I'm selfish as a sports fan. I think most of us are. We just enjoy being entertained. We like watching. I love watching Steph Curry play basketball. The guy's going for 34 and 33 in 2 games. We talked earlier about his ability to, as you talked before the show, to deliver. And you see a guy play at an MVP level. I enjoy being entertained. So do you. So does everybody listening. Kobe entertained us for an incredibly long time, and in these last couple of years, he's been unable to perform. If he has relative health and that competitive burn, which is matched by very few, is combined with health, and he plays at a high level, I'd be psyched to watch more. I think the answer to the question, though,
high level, though, I think you got to get away from that.
High level relative to the mean, not approaching peak Kobe. Those days, I presume, are gone.
They've been done for a long time.
Right. Well, yeah, it happens to everyone.
2012, 2013, he was probably a better player than you realize. I mean, he was putting up numbers at 34 years old. But this year, remember, he was putting up some points. He's scoring 22 games. He's taking the most shots of anyone.
28 shots, 28. I mean, it's enough. I'm saying if he's anything close to that 12-13 season when he was still a very good player, better than an average player, but not Kobe.
So you're saying if he gives us that, which isn't a safe bet now, but if he gives us that at the end of the year, then maybe this isn't the news that it is today.
Correct. But the gigantic caveat here, and you know what it is I'm playing the role of Kupchak, and I pose to you, Kobe, the question you were asking, hey, want to go a couple more years at $20 million? You think he's doing it?
He might, because he's been so hooked up. The last 2-year extension was a terrible financial decision by the Lakers. I just wonder if he plays this year, and then the Buss family, and the way Jeannie Buss came in here and talked about him, like, I mean, she was his number 1 fan.
Anyone that doesn't want to play with him is a loser.
Right. So do you think she would say, no, let's keep Kobe around? And I have no idea what's going to happen with the Lakers. I don't know if he can't play this year and he's not healthy, and they grab Okafor at the 2, and then he and Randall get in each other's way as the combo in the front line, and they're both not in great shape, or they're not playing great defense. Like, I like Randall a lot. I think Okafor can be a really good player. But let's say it's the worst version of those 2 guys. Does Kobe go, this stinks? Like, this isn't even fun. Why would I even want to resign for this? Or do they end up with Towns, or is Okafor a stud anyway, and Randall looks terrific, and they do fit well together, and Kobe plays 70-plus games, and Clarkson develops, and then they start going, we can get Kevin Love, not this summer, but next summer, or we can get Russell Westbrook in 2 summers. Like, does the Magic Johnson tweet version of the Lakers happen?
Right? You mean the fantasy land one where they're still good and they're having a parade in 3 weeks?
So, if you're a Lakers fan, you just believe that you're entitled to the second scenario. I don't know the answer to either one.
It's SVP and Russillo reminder, Game 2 of the Eastern Conference Finals presented by Auto Trader tonight, 7:30 Eastern on these ESPN radio stations. Happy Memorial Day weekend, by the way, as you're enjoying some time off, perhaps. Maybe you're heading someplace. Be safe where you're heading. and enjoy some time and hopefully some good weather. My thought on Kobe and who did he try down to the way he talked and walked to emulate? We all know Jordan.
I was going to go Rex Chapman, but Jordan's a good one.
Sexy Rexy had some bounce.
Dan Marley, go. No, of course it's Jordan.
So we know
the cadence in his
everything he did. And what was the toughest thing for Jordan to this day? The toughest thing for Jordan to do in his life is find some measure of happiness in the day-to-day, because nothing could replace that desire to compete. And not just a desire to ferociously compete. And so I think right now, hey, look, we've stunk for a while. I've been banged up. I'm good. But if, and we underline that and put it in bold type, if he is able to play something like he did in 2012-13, there's not a chance in hell that he doesn't continue to play. Because they're going
to want him to stay no matter what it is.
Sure. And you can be smart. We had Drew Brees on this week, and he talked about looking at business opportunities as you transition away. Kobe's well-positioned. He's a bright guy that understands the lay of the land. And you see...
He'd actually be an awesome analyst if he decided he just wants to do it.
Phenomenal.
He was with Grantland and those guys, you're going, man.
But I think he's the kind of guy. He's thinking boardroom CEO. He's aligning himself
but those guys
with
still like
companies.
being on TV, man.
Yes.
Magic?
I guess. I'd be curious to know. But he'd be great if he chose to do it. I just don't know if he'd want to do it. But I know what he'd want to do more than anything else. If he still, as long as he still felt like he could get shots up and is the same as Jordan. You know? Jordan in his speech, his Hall of Fame speech where he's still mad. And he talked about, you never know, I'll come back at 50. And people chuckled because it was a joke, but not to him. Don't laugh.
A question for you.
Yeah.
Do you know how many games Jordan played in his final career? His final season of his career, 39 years old?
I do not.
82 games. And I just always remind myself of that we didn't get the Jordan 35, 36, and 37-year-old seasons. We didn't get those years. He comes back at 38, plays 60 games for the Wizards, comes back at 39, and scores 19 a game, playing 37 minutes a night at 39 years old.
And it was a different guy. It was a different game, but it was still. There's not one reason.
He got boards, he got assists.
There's not one reason in the world for him to do that, other than professional pride and an insatiable need to scratch an itch that you can't reach. And that's where Kobe's comparison to Jordan, I believe, makes this an interesting thing to ask out loud. But my guess is if he can play at all next year.
Right, that's the point. Right. If he has another season like he just had, then this is probably it.
I've done what I can do. But if he can play, somebody's going to pay him to play, and he'll let him, would be my guess.
SVP and Russillo.
Russillo's just destroying some food product. Looks like a salad and such. It looks like he's looking around for a loaf of bread or a utensil or something.
A million things going on. I'm getting phone calls.
Leave him alone. He's on the air 1 to 4. We've had a show for a while. I'm proud of today's effort. It's a sunny day. It's a holiday weekend, and I've enjoyed the segments outside of the Chris Long one, which I ruined. There's been a broad variety of topics covered. It's been fun. And, you come to a ESPN parking lot on a Friday, particularly holiday weekend. It looks like it's optional, work optional.
Yeah, I don't know how those people have it like that. But
I don't know either. Apparently they work whenever they feel like it. We're here for you, America. Hey, what's around the corner? So get some good questions going. Because we've had a good show outside of the Chris Long fiasco that was my fault. So let's continue this momentum for the final hour. Interesting question, Just Steve in the producer chair was asking us before the show about Damari Carroll and the idea of his availability tonight. He's important to this team, but when you're a guy like him that's a cog in the wheel that hadn't gotten paid, it's a contract year and you're hurt, how do you treat your availability tonight? And Antonio Davis, paraphrasing, just said, he'll get his money, but you want to be available in that room for your guys. You want to be able to look at them and have them look at you, and they know and you know, all right, I got you.
Yeah, I don't think of money, you could say, well, if he goes out there, he gets hurt again, and that ruins all the money. I understand that, but That's still not entirely likely. It's more likely he goes out there, gives it a shot, and doesn't move around the same way. And if he doesn't move around the same way, then teams in the offseason are going to give him a pass. So you hope he can find a way to make this work. But I can't imagine that Carroll isn't – like Carroll's the type of guy that wants to go back out there and give this a shot if he has a chance to. And he's that important. If he doesn't play, this series is over.
No chance.
Right?
Yes.
I'm not sure they were winning it with Damari Carroll. Without him,
I think you saw prior to the injury that LeBron in the postseason is going to treat these games completely different because they are. And so I just wonder if he's compromised what value he brings to the floor.
That's right. I mean, it could be worse having him.
Right. I'll just go with,
Well, look at
Bazemore.
Kyrie.
Yeah.
Well, right. Bazemore's going to play maybe more Mike Scott, but they've benched him because he's so bad.
I'd go with Bazemore and just take my chances because I figure whatever percentage you've got is going to be better than what Damari can give us. And that's totally different than the Kyrie thing because Kyrie's obviously not right and won't be until next year, and you already won a game. So, plus, Kyrie, you're the one pick. We know who you are. You don't have to prove anything to anybody.
No, but the Kyrie thing is a great way to look at it, though, because we're looking at him going, well, if I have a chance, if you can be out there, you got to go out there. And it's always a great thing to say in theory, and it shows toughness and all that stuff. And a lot of times it doesn't work out, and you think, well, how did Chris Paul stay in Game 7 against the Spurs, and then he ended up missing the first 2 of the Rockets series?
Mm-hmm.
But Kyrie out there, the guy we saw in Game 1, there's no point in putting him out there.
Well, he can't hold Schroeder or Teague to begin with.
Right. I mean, they're tough enough to stay in front of when you're healthy.
Yeah.
But there was a play specifically when they were going, Cavs were going left to right, so he's down on his end of the court, and he had a lane to drive. And he just pulled up one dribble, 18 feet, jumper, clank. And he wasn't on the court as they closed that one out. J.R. Smith is a big reason for that. But the Kyrie thing then leads to this LeBron stuff, which you can love a guy, right? But this is tough, right?
I was going to say presented without comment, but it's kind of our job to comment. So here's LeBron on the notion of playing hurt.
Everyone's different. Everyone's pain tolerance is different. But my responsibility is much higher than a lot of guys, not only on this team, but a lot of guys in professional sports. So I take it very seriously. Being out there for my guys, if I'm able to play it, 70, 60, 50%, I feel like I can give something to the team. If I'm hurting the team, then I'm going to sit down, but if I can give something to help them, I'm going to be out there for them. I think just my presence alone, can help us more than anything.
Okay, let me start at the end. His presence alone, no question. He's the alpha guy. He's the leader, emotional and physical, no doubt. But the idea about...
Everyone's different. Everyone's pain tolerance is different. But my responsibility is much higher than a lot of guys, not only on this team, but a lot of guys in professional sports.
Is that fair? His responsibility is a lot higher than a lot of other guys in professional sports? Is that fair?
I think that part's fair.
Uh-huh. We're both, let's just be honest about what we're eye-rolling about. It's that anytime he rolls his ankle, it's the end of days, right?
He did it in Game 1 against Atlanta. Now, it has been better. And remember, I was on this early with the LeBron. When he's hurt, it's the end of the world. And then he comes out and dunks off the ankle he turned on 5 minutes before. And we asked Dwayne Wade about it.
I was just going to say.
And Wade started laughing hysterically when I said, what's up with your boy here?
He said, I say that to him all the time.
Right.
Like, and the minute you ask the question, there were 2 things that happened that day that I'll always remember. Yours was serious, mine was not. Dwayne and I both call fruit punch red. That's the flavor. And he said, yep, we call it red too. And the minute that you asked him about LeBron falling down, acting like he probably his cruciate had imploded in his knee, and he immediately started laughing and said, I joke around about that all the time with him.
And my thing with it was always, it's just one of these little things with LeBron where you go, you're going to be kidding me. So then
you allow stuff to bug you more with guys that maybe bug you. But go ahead. I interrupted you.
No, because you love him so much as a player.
Right.
At Game 1, at the end of that game, it's a critique. Like, what are you doing? Stop trying to show how much you can dribble with Paul Millsap. Get this done. Doesn't mean you hate him. And it's funny how it works. It turns into this thing where it's, well, if you're one of the guys that says this guy will never win a ring, then I was never going to agree with you, so I was pro-LeBron. But I don't think this is anti-LeBron. But this gets back to a LeBron conversation we actually had probably earlier in the season, where everything about his life has been so not normal and always about him that he sits in front of everyone and has these discussions where it sounds incredibly arrogant and not even close to being self-aware. Yet he thinks he's being profound. And you're going, what are you talking about, man?
Yeah, how many times did you roll your ankle against Chicago and now in this series? And then he stepped on the cameraman, and it's just a phrasing. Well, I stepped on the cameraman. I guess he got his foot out there where it wasn't supposed to be. What's he supposed to do? He wasn't on the floor. It's just one of those bummer situations where you went to try to make a play and you ended up. The implication from LeBron is the reason I roll my ankles because that guy was someplace he shouldn't have been. I remember as he walked over, because remember that whole sequence was he couldn't get back on D. Kyrie actually scored. Atlanta came down. LeBron's gimping around. It shoots and misses. They get the rebound, immediately call timeout. And as he walked to the bench, I was keeping my eye on this. Like LeBron's pointing at the guy, and everybody in the Cavalier bench, you can see, it's like they want to go over and mop the guy. And he's just a cameraman. I mean, it's not like the Larry David Curb Your Enthusiasm where his feet are on the court and he trips Shaq or whatever. It's what happened. But then it turns into like, that his pain threshold is just higher than others.
Yes, he has more responsibility.
Yeah.
Okay? No doubt about it. And the Kyrie stuff is fine. But there could be, like, if you hated the guy, if you really wanted to get on LeBron, and again, we don't.
No.
You could point out some stuff recently where you go, well, what are you doing? Are you trying to seem, like, separated from everybody else in that locker room? The Kyrie parenting thing? Where they go, well, I had to this time around as a veteran take on, more fatherly role and all this stuff. And then somebody went up to Kyrie and said, how's LeBron been as a parent? And I forget Kyrie's father's first name, but just say it's Andrew. He's like, I got one dad, and his is Andrew Irving. That's my dad. So I was listening to Levitard and Stugotz and those guys yesterday, and it's funny because there's just texting with Stugotz, not sexting.
You guys are
hey,
I said
that wrong,
dudes,
and they were doing a segment. I thought, oh, here we go again, and I'm like, how am I going to get annoyed that they're doing all this Heat stuff? And they both brought up this point. They go, you think there's ever a moment, as great as it is, okay? You get LeBron on your team, it's awesome. You're going to have a chance, and the Cavs have a chance of winning this whole thing. But you think there's ever a private moment where guys on the team go, this dude, like, are you kidding? Parental advice.
100% they do.
Pain tolerance.
Yeah.
Your wisdom. Like, come on, man, you're great. We got it. You got 2 rings. But relax.
No doubt.
Right? They'd have to.
That conversation was so much more fun when I was pretending to be.
You didn't want to do this LeBron.
No, because I kept wanting to go, send me the nudes. And I don't even know who that is. That's Stugotz. I don't know who it is. It's just me saying something horribly inappropriate. But, of course, that's what those guys do because they know how good he was. But there just has to be a collective eye roll about his level of responsibility and pain threshold and then being the dad to Kyrie. Rich and I were having this conversation before this show started. You know how I feel about arrogance. When it's justified, when you've proven it, when you've walked the walk, I don't begrudge you that. But there's still a level of self-awareness that I think people need to have.
But it may be impossible for him to have.
Just like we covered in that topic. When you have nothing that happens in your day-to-day existence that's normal, not one thing, then there's no bumpers to police you back to the middle of some kind of when your reality is that abnormal, and there's no, you can't. What conversation has he got during the course of a day where someone's like, hey, man, let's rein that in. Let's tighten that up. No. The organization's empowered you to be that, and you are that good on the floor. So and everybody that's your boy is part of your crew. Like the guys that work with you and for you are all your buddies. Everyone's on scholarship. No one's having a hard conversation with you. No one.
SVP and Russillo.
I got one more thing to say to all you folks on the road heading someplace fun. Enjoy yourself. Be safe. Not to get too preachy, but just remember Memorial Day and what it's about. People always say happy. I just always think it's worth just taking a second to think about what's going on and why you have the day off. Why you get to sit around and drink beer and eat hamburgers and hot dogs. So end of sermon, but it's worth doing, and it's humbling if you take a minute to do so. So I screwed up pretty bad, right?
This was, I think, pretty bad.
Okay, let's revisit.
Earlier today on SVP and Russillo.
I don't want to hit this button.
Okay, just to set it up here, Chris Long every week on Fridays, and right before we're about to have Chris on, so we know from the guys behind the glass, just Steve and the crew, they're giving us a thumbs up. Steve saying Chris Long's on the line. You break your headphones to the point where you can't wear them. So you're freaking, and you say you take care of the interview. So your mic is on, your headphones are off, I'm talking to Chris Long. I'm doing the interview where I start it to try to help give you time to get settled. And you know how you talk about your grandfather used to pick up the phone while you called into sports talk radio shows? Hello? You were just, well, here's the audio.
Can we get something out there? I invited Ryen to Bonnaroo this year.
Yeah.
And he kind of blew me off a little bit, like a little flakage. Steve?
We lose him?
No, we didn't
Stanford
lose
Steve,
him.
can you attest? Is Stanford Steve there today?
Okay, so he didn't.
Did we lose him? Play the audio again, just so people understand.
No.
Can we get something out there? I invited Ryen to Bonnaroo this year.
Yeah.
And he kind of blew me off a little bit, like a little flakage. Steve?
We lose him?
No, we didn't
Stanford
lose
Steve,
him.
can you attest? Is Stanford Steve there today?
So that was bad.
I felt genuinely uncomfortable when Ryen said that when I was in the room.
Yeah. Well, I mean.
Yeah, you were a little annoyed.
I was a lot annoyed. And it doesn't sound, I don't think the sound does it the justice.
No.
I don't think people truly understand what that means.
There's a look that Ryen gives where the eyes get really big and the eyebrows are kind of pointed. Like it's like what he's saying to me is, what the bleep are you doing? And justifiably so.
On that one. And I know I gave it other times where it's not justified, so I apologize.
I mean,
but that one I'm going, you just told me take the interview over.
Yeah.
I'm going to lay out,
Yeah.
get my headphone situation going.
Yep.
And now your mic is on and your headphones are broken so you can't hear. And I'm just think I'm doing the interview. So I'm looking at you going, are we doing this now?
That's what we were doing. He didn't know Stanford Steve wasn't here. So what we did was we just punted it on the start and we hit the animation again and we did a take two.
It's terrible.
Yeah, it was awful. We lose him?
No, we didn't
Stanford
lose
Steve?
him.
He's still, again, his hit ratio of funny things that he says is astonishing to me. Very few have that kind of on-base percentage.
I'd put him up there with the greats.
All-time greats.
Right. And who has a higher hit percentage of funny on stuff they say?
Particularly when they're not going for the funny. Because he's not auditioning. He's not trying out. He's not going for the laugh. Just an articulate dude who's funny.
I know he's had some bad movies, but if you hang out in a room with Will Ferrell, like it is that funny. Now, if he's not your guy, you know, I can understand that. We all have different tastes.
Also, this happened.
I was listening to Levitard and Stugatz and those guys yesterday, and it's funny because I was just texting with Stugatz, not sexting. Not sexting.
Let me ask you a question.
More likely to sext with whom? Levitard or Stugatz?
Dan is great with words.
There you go. Hey, buddy.
That's enough. I answered your horrible question.
I want to end with as much discomfort as possible.
And we are nailing it.
Yep.
Absolutely.
That's what we did.
Chances you go see Mad Max Solo this weekend?
Yeah, the wife is not on board with that.
You going to Mad Max or just you going to the movie Solo? What if you say, hey, I'm going to the movies tonight. I'll see you later.
That'd be kind of odd. Or we could go and she could go see Pitch Perfect 2, and I could go see Mad Max Fury Road.
Would you have to go see Pitch Perfect 2 with her? If she said, I want to go, you have to go to this. First one's actually great.
No, man, it's just like the hike. You know, hey, get an apple and enjoy the view. I'll be over here doing something different.
So you're not going to hike. You're not going to go to the movies. What are you doing this weekend?
Don't have any idea. If the weather cooperates, maybe go hit some golf balls. That's a thought. That's a thought. Because right now I'm at that place where I have played so little, but when I did play, I hit it well enough that I have created that fake I'm good at golf belief.
That's a good fake belief.
So great, because I'm like, oh yeah, just this little shoulder turn. Got to get a full turn. The whole point, you want to get that left shoulder behind the ball. Then bang, I know where I need to. Don't want to cast. Don't want to come over the top. I know right where that club needs to be, and then boom, just deliver, square it up, and there you go. And the last time I hit golf balls, that's what I was doing. Invariably, that lasts a brief time. It's fleeting.
If you're playing well, the least amount of practice is the best thing to do because you forgot all the bad things you were doing.
What are you, Jack Nicklaus?
No, but
what can you
I've hit a golf ball once or twice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you good?
Sounds like I'm better than you, the way you describe your game.
You want to play for money?
No, but doesn't it happen like the first time each year you go out there, you think you're going to do terrible, and you end up actually hitting the ball well? It's because you forgot all the bad stuff that you were doing from last year.
Yeah, that's what I just said, kind of. And then you said it again.
Well, now you want to go hit golf balls, and you're going to start doing all the bad stuff again.
You don't know that. Maybe I'll just only do good stuff. What?
Trying to help.
I don't know what's going on here. I'm sorry.
You did help. You did help. You got any pleated khaki shorts? Me and you will go play.
I'd love to play. Caesar wants to play, a foursome. Me and him and you and Ryan down at the Waterbury Country Club sometime.
Why are we just hearing about this?
Because I told him I don't know if they would play, but would you guys go?
Can he play?
Yeah, he's pretty good.
That's your brand manager.
Yep.
What do you think about this? How about Mike gives Scott some golf tips, and Scotty gives you some tips on how to not spill food out of your mattress and clean it afterwards? How to get milk stains out after a few days.
Square deal. Sounds good.
Square deal. I'm getting ready to say something just remarkably stupid.
SVP and Russillo.
It was all a dream. I used to read Word Up magazine, Salt and Pepper and Heavy D up in the limousine, hanging pictures on my wall. Every Saturday rap attack, Mr. Magic, Marley Marl.
Miguel Cabrera leads the Detroit Tigers into Anaheim to face Mike Trout and the Los Angeles Angels. The pregame's at 7 Eastern, followed by first pitch at 8, Sunday on ESPN2 and on ESPN Radio.